After meeting with Dr. Kleiner, Barney, and Alex at Dr. Kleiner's lab in retail, Gordon must flee it as the Combine become aware of his existence. This involves running from the Combine across train tracks and jumping into City 17's canals to flee the pursuers. The 2003 beta build has a version of this as well. This version is largely the same as the retail sequence, though with some variations in pathing, and more involvement of Barney. But running on foot wasn't always going to be the main method of escape. In Raising the Bar, there are multiple short stories written by Mark Laidlaw and created for the Valve team to read during the development of the game. The uncorrected version of Raising the Bar has one story named Old Friends, which shows a bit of this escape sequence. The first part of the story deals with the cut Manhack arcade. Halfway through this story, though, Gordon receives the HEV suit. Barney, Dr. Kleiner, and Gordon then steal a Combine bus to flee Kleiner's lab. They are then chased by the Combine through the streets of City 17. As part of the pursuit, the Citadel itself tries to fire at the bus as it goes through the city. Eventually, as the trio are on the verge of getting out of the city, the bus tumbles down into a ravine. Dr. Kleiner disappears in the wreck, and Barney dies from the crash, and Gordon must continue on foot into the sewers, where he hears the sounds of manhacks. This bus ride idea appears to have partly made it to development. A series of 6 maps, named C17 Road, were developed iterating on the concept, with the first of them being created in 2001. Road 1 sets the basic route down and features some cityscape work. The architecture is consistent across all these maps, and is more North American influenced than anything in the retail game, including featuring large skyscrapers. There's additional city work in a separate box. It's unknown what this is for, but it could be to help with scaling since there is a bus in it at ground level. The majority of these maps were touched up across 2002, beginning with Road 2, which is largely the same as Road 1. Many of the buildings are composed of singular building textures that are stretched over a wider surface. Some details though, like the roads and the awnings, are made of multiple brushes. Road 3 adds an industrial-looking tunnel to the beginning of the map and removes the additional city work that wasn't featured in the main map. The bus used for this ride and as street decoration was made of brushes, rather than being a model. Because of this, the brushwork is in its own box from Road 3 onward, to control its lighting. Interestingly, the front door is split in two, despite the fact that both halves of the door are one texture, and the bus being one entity. This suggests that they did plan for the doors to open. Road 3A is basically the same as Road 3. Road 4 adds some extra buildings to the map, and extends the last leg of the journey to go through a large highway tunnel. And Road 5 is largely the same as that. Notably, these maps do not feature Barney, or Dr. Kleiner, or the Citadel at all. These maps are also old enough to not use prop static, but instead static prop, hence the obsolete entities. Road 6 is the final of these maps. I have had to modify it ever so slightly to get it to run, but here is the map running in-engine as Valve intended, without commentary. Here's what the rest of the map looks like when not in the bus. Despite many things from the short story being missing, there are NPC citizens in a few places, though only in areas visible from the bus. Similarly, buildings are floating in areas when you see them up close, and tunnels end abruptly. This is because they are also only to be seen from the route of the bus. A second series of maps, named D1 Sewer, is the aftermath of the ride. C17 Road level work is even a viz group of most versions of these maps. The rest of the map outside of this is focused on the sewers of City 17, though usually with a viz group that features the bus fallen into the canals, similar to the short story. Other unrelated areas and viz groups exist in the D1 Sewer variants, but we will return to those another day. The first version of these maps features more natural terrain, which fits with the idea of a ravine from the story. It appears the player was to eventually head into the sewers to continue. The actual main viz group of this map is referred to as manhacks, and is more sewers. Taking all this information about these viz groups into account, it seems the plan was to follow the story to a degree. The player was to go into the sewers and eventually fight the manhacks, though seemingly over a longer time span. This D1 sewer map was worked on until 2003. By this point, the C17 road level work was removed from the viz groups. The basin area where the bus had fallen into was changed over these maps, removing the naturalistic look to it and focusing more on a human-built canal design. Manhack NPCs would be added over time. It appears that the ravine or canal that the bus fell into would eventually become D1 Canals 02 in the retail game, over a long development process of its own, involving the development of the train station at one point. I have had to also modify this train station map slightly in order to get the lighting to properly be used. Like the D1 sewer maps, the player was intended to dive into an expansive sewer system, though no manhacks were added to this prototype map. None of C-17 Road would end up being used, leaving this bridge and basin area as the only remnants of the bus chase specifically to make it to retail. The manhack Viz group would also eventually become D1 Canals 03. And various other areas in the sewer maps would also find their way into the game in some form.